So Joe Rogan managed to get Mark Zuckerberg to admit what we all already knew, that Facebook, big tech media, censor. They censor what they don't like based on a political ideology. It's not over our safety. It's not over health. It's not over the disseminating of false information. They censor. And the FBI wants them to.
How do you guys handle things when they're a big news item that's controversial? Like there was a lot of attention on Twitter during the election because of the Hunter Biden laptop story, the New York Post.
Had that too.
Yeah, so you guys censored that as well?
So we took a different path than Twitter. Basically the background here is the FBI, I think, basically came to us, some folks on our team, and was like, hey, just so you know, like you should be on high alert. We thought that there was a lot of Russian propaganda in the 2016 election. We have it on notice that basically there's about to be some kind of dump of that's similar to that. So just be vigilant. So our protocol is different from Twitter's. What Twitter did is they said you can't share this at all. We didn't do that. The distribution on Facebook was decreased, but people were still allowed to share it. So you could still share it. You could still consume it.
So when you say the distribution is decreased,
it got shared.
How does that work?
It basically, the ranking in newsfeed was a little bit less. So fewer people saw it than would have otherwise. So it definitely...
By what percentage?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it's meaningful.
And keep in mind that the former Attorney General under Donald Trump, James Barr, said this week that he is sick and tired of the right, meaning Trump supporters, getting all over the FBI when it comes to the Mar-a-Lago raid. They were simply doing their job. To which I respond to AG Barr, bullhawk. You're just another member of the swamp who was part of Team Trump, there to protect the swamp. And unfortunately, the one thing the president had no control over was knowing just how deep the deep state is, just how rank the swamp actually is. And you were simply there to do the bidding of the swamp and not allow Trump to get too carried away with his agenda to drain the swamp and to bring real change. So, Mr. Barr, you have been duly noted, and your whole hogwash over supporting that, saying that he should have, rather than trying to whip up his base, he should have gone out and gotten more votes. Really? I would love to have this argument with you, but of course, I'll get censored, I'll get deplatformed, because I can't say here what we all really know happened in the election of 2020, because it was the most perfect election that ever happened in the history of elections. It's only 2016 you can question. It's only the George Bush Al Gore election you can question. You cannot question that Joe Dementia Amtrak Biden went out and got 80 million votes while he was drooling on himself, campaigning from his basement, and occasionally doing a parking lot campaign with 6 car horns honking at him. 80 million people ran out to vote for that. Okay. But see, we can't really have an honest conversation about it because we will be censored and deplatformed. But they'll keep information from us that they deem to be hurtful or harmful to Joe Biden, like Hunter Biden and the laptop, to the point where even Bill Maher gets it, and he's got to explain it to Meathead Reiner.
Using armed violence to try to kill people in the Capitol. That's not justified.
Answer this question.
Never was an actor better typecast to play the role they were given than this guy was as Meathead on All in the Family. What armed people? The so-called insurrection, which looked like a bunch of junior high school kids on a field trip to the Capitol. You got a guy with a couple of horns coming out of his helmet that stood up at Nancy Botox Pelosi's desk in the House, and he had to go to prison for it. The other dude that got into her office and kicked his feet up on the desk. The only people who were armed were the Capitol Police. The only person that was shot was an unarmed Trump supporter. There was There were no death threats, or will you stop taking the AOC hyperbole as if it's reality? You have sucked in such a false narrative, you can't even begin to grasp and understand what the members of my audience get. Yes, there are crazies in every group, and there were people that day who supported Trump who certainly overreacted and got caught up, if you will, in the moment. But there's also overwhelming evidence that nobody really wants to deal with, much like Attorney Barr doesn't really want to deal with, what happened in November of 2020. Nobody really wants to deal with the fact that, gee, there might have been those who infiltrated in with the Trump crowd that day from the deep state that might have just gotten things worked up on purpose. Kind of like when they dress up and call themselves Proud Boys, or they all march in the same polo shirts and khaki pants with masks over their face. I have eyewitness accounts of people who were there, who saw the vans roll up with the federal license plates on them. Guys getting out in SWAT gear, putting Trump t-shirts on and filtering into the crowd. The same way, they show up during BLM protests and give the rioters bricks and bombs and things to start fires with. I know it's a little over your head, meathead. I know it's a lot for you to try to process. So why don't we just let Bill ask the question and you try to answer it, okay?
What is
Was
the
it
question?
appropriate? The question is,
Was
was
the
it
press-
appropriate to bury the Hunter Biden?
You're talking about the press doing that?
He's saying that's what they did, and that is what they did. They buried the Hunter Biden story before the election because they were like, we can't risk having the election thrown to Trump. We'll tell them after the election.
And we know for a fact that that's what they did?
Of course, you don't
but
follow
I'm
this.
saying
You
you know for a fact that that's what they did. I don't know what they did.
I know, because you only watch MSNBC.
No, that's not true.
I'm sorry, but even if you're a liberal, you should not be good with this. You should not be okay with this. The fact that they just raid Donald Trump's home, that they just kick him off all social media platforms, that anybody that says something that you find even remotely offensive, it gets censored, deplatformed. They get you to embrace that till eventually we are living in an actual totalitarian police state, and you're allowed to own nothing, say nothing, because after all, it's all part of the reset. The government will own everything. You'll be dependent on them for everything, and don't you dare complain or they'll cut you off. Hunter Biden, grifting millions of dollars from Ukraine and China, openly selling access to his father, the vice president, and Joe Biden ultimately being beholden. Why do you think we're doing a proxy war with Russia and Ukraine? Well, Joe Biden owes those Ukrainian oligarchs a whole lot of payback. That's why we're sending over billions that's now unaccounted for. Arms that we've sent over there that didn't really get in the hands of Ukraine soldiers, they got sold on the black market, probably to Russia. See, we're not really angry with Russia because we're doing oil deals with them on the side. We're doing a deal with Iran on the side through Russia. And China, we just gave our strategic oil reserve to. We've eliminated all the tariffs. We're allowing them to intellectually steal our property again. And we're making sure that they manufacture all of our stuff, thus costing American jobs again. Oh, and we're just going to go ahead and let them mass produce all of our pharmaceuticals because, after all, we should allow an enemy state to have control over our health. And big tech is there to do the bidding of the left. Do you understand just how rank and nasty the deep state actually is? And that we should forever feel a debt of gratitude to the one guy that's really had the guts to take it on. And he doesn't have to. Yet he keeps taking it on, and he keeps taking it. Because at the end of the day, you can mock him, you can make fun of him as a game show host, as a fake billionaire. Call him whatever you want, but at the end of the day, the guy really does love America. He's exposed a lot of what's broken, and it ought to spur us on to action, real action, come this November.